welcome to Back to the Movies.
I'm your host, Steve Harmon.
And I'm Giovanna Sikevich.
Hopefully y'all had a good Halloween and ate lots of candy.
I know I did. Hope I didn't get any cavities.
Only Timer a dentist is going to be able to answer that one.
Very funny, Steve.
I thought it was.
Okay, besides your bad joke, what's on the schedule for this week's episode?
I'm glad you asked. This week we are focusing on one of the greatest British movie characters of all time.
Oh, you mean we're doing another Harry Potter episode? But there aren't any more Harry Potter movies, so that doesn't make sense.
No, it's not Harry Potter, unfortunately, but try again.
Oh, is it that guy? Is it that Shaun guy from Shaun of the Dead? I didn't think he was one of the greatest characters, but I could be wrong.
No, it's not Simon Pegg's character, although we will touch on him later. Seriously, you don't have any idea? Come on, I'm going to give you one more chance.
Wait, I think I've got it now.
About time.
It's Mary Poppins, isn't it?
No, it's Bond, James Bond. They've made over like 20 movies about him, and he doesn't even come in your top 3?
I'm sorry I didn't know British culture.
Come on, you're even doing the new releases or release this week. We always base our episodes on new releases. This should have been easy.
I thought I was just missing part of the script. I thought that there was maybe another British movie coming out, and that was why we're doing a whole tribute to English films.
Well, let's just do the new release, all right?
All right. Our new release this week, as Steve already mentioned, is the new James Bond film, Skyfall. In this movie, M is in trouble and James Bond is her only hope. When M attempts to relocate, the agency questions her ability to run MI6. Bond ends up solo with only Agent Eve to guide him to stop the criminal mastermind named Silva.
You know, Hollywood seems to be kind of quiet this week.
Maybe they're waiting until elections are over?
If anything, they should put out more movies right now. I want to escape from all the political ads.
Well, it was your turn to do the Parkwood 17 movie review this week.
True, and I did get to see a movie I've been waiting to see anyway.
What did you see?
I saw the film Hotel Transylvania in 3D.
No fair. I wanted to see that movie. I should have picked that one last week.
Well, you still have time. It's still in the theaters.
Was it as good as the previews made it seem?
I thought it was all right. I mean, the 3D really made a difference. I've never got to see one. I think everybody should check out the new 3Ds since they got rid of the whole red and blue glasses for them.
So some pretty special features then?
Yeah, I mean, it just pops out on you, and I think the plot was kind of interesting. I mean, the Dracula is a single father trying to protect his daughter and friends, so he builds this giant hotel so they could stay away from humans that are the bad guys.
Wow, and what ends up happening from there?
Well, basically, you know, eventually, a human hiker kind of shows up and crashes his daughter's, the Dracula's daughter, 118th birthday, and kind of falls in love with the human, and Dracula's trying to stop that throughout the whole movie, basically.
That sounds crazy. It sounds a lot like The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, except for, I guess you trade fins, tridents for fangs and a cape.
So is this a movie for little kids then?
I think anybody. There is no technically any real bad guys, but, you know, just the conflict between, you know, human versus monsters. It's, instead of the monsters being the bad guys in this, I guess, you know, the humans are the scary ones in this one.
Ah, so it wasn't all that creepy of a film then?
No, I think it's fun for any age, even, you know, 1 through 99, I guess.
Awesome. Well, we'd like to once again thank Parkwood 17 for allowing us to review this film. Students, remember to get your discount tickets at the information booth in Atwood. While we were mentioning it, isn't this week's Atwood movie night showing Ted?
Yes, it is. I actually saw this movie over the summer, and I loved it. I mean, now I get a second chance to see it for free this time.
Wow. Nathan, are students as excited as Steve to see Ted?
Hey everybody, Nate here for another version of Atwood Movie Night. Now this week the Atwood Theaters will be showing Ted. Now just in case you haven't been living under the rock for the entire summer, Ted was one of the biggest comedies of the year and of all time. Well, let me just explain to you a little bit. Ted's about a young boy who got a teddy bear over Christmas, and then the next day it came to life. Now the boy has been living with the teddy bear for about 30 years, and it gets pretty crazy. So I'd say check the movie out. Well, if you're a fan of Family Guy, I think you'll appreciate the fact that Seth MacFarlane is the producer of this movie, and he's also the voice of the teddy bear as well. And also Mila Kunis that plays Meg. Wow, Meg is a big role for once? Well, that's pretty cool. So I'll talk to a few students on campus and see what they think of this movie. Found Tammy here, and she hasn't not seen the movie yet, but I heard you're a pretty big fan of Family Guy.
Yeah, I like Family Guy and American Dad a lot. I watch it on Netflix all the time.
Yeah, me too. Those are both pretty awesome shows. So, So if you notice, like Seth MacFarlane, he's like the voice of Peter Griffin, Stewie. He's also the voice of the teddy bear too. Like it sounds pretty similar, you have to say.
Well, I have always been amazed that he can do all those different voices, and that's just one person doing them. I haven't heard what Ted sounds like, but I'm sure he's a pretty interesting voice.
Imagine Peter Griffin in a Boston accent. Hey, guess what I found? Another person that's named me, Nathan. Except he spelled the name, I spelled the I-N, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, so like you told me, you've seen Ted before, right?
I have seen Ted.
Do you like the movie at all?
The movie was fantastic. I'm a big Mila Kunis fan from even her work back in that 70s show. Mark Wahlberg, phenomenal actor and has been for years. And then, of course, the creative genius of Seth MacFarlane. It's a triple win.
Yeah, he's sure pretty funny. I mean, he has a lot of TV shows out there, like The Cleveland Show and American Dad, so pretty talented guy, I have to say.
Yes, he is. I also I enjoyed his work hosting the Comedy Central Roast series. He's done some good stuff there as well.
So what do you say your favorite part of the movie is?
Probably the interview at the grocery store. That, I mean, it's dirty, but it's really, really well written.
So if you were to tell somebody that hasn't seen the movie before why they should see it, what would you say to them?
Well, like I said, the acting is top notch. The story is actually a really good story. It's really well written, and if you enjoyed really off the wall, colorful humor, it's definitely your movie.
Well, if you happen to have nothing to do over the weekend, grab yourself a Thunder Buddy and go ahead and see Ted. I'm Nathan Fuller, and this has been another version of Atwood Movie Night.
Thanks, Nathan. You know, I wasn't sure about this movie heading to the theaters. It had potential to be hilarious or a flop.
Wasn't this Seth MacFarlane's first movie?
Writing and producing, yes. Acting, no. Did you know he was the voice of Johan in Hellboy 2? He was the guy with that spacesuit-looking costume.
That was Seth? I have to say, I never would have guessed that.
I didn't know either until actually I saw the credits, but before we go to the credits of our show, let's take a break.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with some Hollywood or British gossip.
Welcome back to Back to the Movies.
You know what would have been fun? To do this whole episode in a British accent.
Yeah, I don't think so. I can do a line or two, but that's about the extent of my British accent.
It can't be that bad. Let's hear it.
Good day, mate. Bloody hell, that's Australian. Piss off that idea. I sound like a bloody wanker.
Okay, you're right. Maybe that was a bad idea. Let's just move on to this week's British gossip.
You mean Hollywood gossip, right?
Hollywood is not in England, so this week it is British gossip. Colette, what's new in jolly old England?
Hello everyone, my name is Colette Locke, and from across the pond, I give you a jolly welcome to this week's Hollywood gossip on Great Britain movie stars. We all know the world's famous heartthrob vampire Robert Pattinson is not shy to getting attention, in particular since American actress Kristen Stewart broke his poor little heart. After reports of Pattinson moving out of his home in LA, in which he shared with Stewart, it appears the couple is still pursuing a relationship together, and they are working on their trust issues, but taking things slow. But how slow are they actually moving? In a recent interview to promote Breaking Dawn Part 2, in which the characters become parents of a little vampire baby, the duo was asked to talk about their views on parenthood off camera. From what it sounds, both Pattinson and Stewart are excited to have children and to start a family. The question is, will they be starting this family together, or will this family portrait only be an illusion on big screen? All I can say is I wish them the best of luck. When most people think of England, the first thing that pops into their minds is the famous wizard hero Harry Potter and the books and films that have taken over our lives for almost a decade. Now, a year after the last film was released, where all the magical actors of the series now? Well, Rupert Grint, who played our favorite redhead Ron Weasley, has been up to more than just partying and playing golf. Grint just wrapped up filming a new film with Shia LaBeouf, as well as numerous other projects in the works. Emma Watson has moved on from being the cute little bookworm Hermione Granger. After being the face of Burberry, Watson has proven herself to be one talented actress after a memorable performance in My Week with Marilyn. Watson has cashed in her British accent for an American one in the new film The Perks of Being a Wallflower, in theaters now. And now on to Harry Potter himself. Daniel Radcliffe has been in numerous projects, including the thriller The Woman in Black. Radcliffe is now working on a TV miniseries, A Young Doctor's Notebook. What about the other characters? Well, Professor McGonagall actress Maggie Smith is busy working on popular TV series Downton Abbey. And the Weasley twins, James and Oliver Phelps, well, they went back to being brunette. Who knew they weren't natural redheads? It appears these actors have let go from the wizarding world, but I'm still bitter about never getting my letter to Hogwarts when I was 11. Well, thanks for gossiping with me. Join me again next week back stateside for all the juicy details in Hollywood.
Well, it seems like the English gossip really isn't that different from Hollywood gossip.
Same issues, just a different location or origin.
I'm surprised I didn't see more Kate and William.
You remember that they're not movie stars, right? They're just royalty, not actors.
I'm sure they'll have a movie someday. They already have a TV movie about their wedding, so I'm sure Hollywood will have something in the works eventually.
In the meantime, there are plenty of movies about British royalty, though.
There have been several Queen Elizabeth movies. The Other Boleyn Girl and Henry VIII are just a few of those films.
This week, our extra host, Nick, will look into history behind the movie The King's Speech.
Nick, was the movie accurate in its portrayal of King George?
Hello and welcome to The Extra. My name is Nick Dorff, where today I'll be talking about the film The King's Speech. It came out in theaters in 2010, where it starred Colin Firth as King George VI. The problem with King George VI is that he suffers from a stuttering problem, which leads to him seeking help from an Australian speech therapist named Lionel Logue, who was played by Geoffrey Rush. The idea for the film about King George VI was thought of by David Seidler, the man who wrote the screenplay for the film. Seidler was reading about King George VI's stutter problem and how he was able to overcome his stuttering problem. Although, as you would expect, King George VI did not become King George VI right away, as he started off as Prince Albert, the Duke of York, being the second oldest son to King George V. Albert had given a speech at the British Empire exhibition that was described by many as embarrassing because he had continuous struggles with his stutter. Albert's wife Elizabeth, who was embarrassed by her husband's stutter, told him that he needed to get help. Although hesitant at first, Albert had decided that he needed the help, and that's where he met Lionel Logue. In 1934, King George delivered his Christmas radio address to the citizens of England. After delivering the speech, King George V tells David, the older brother of Albert, that he would be an embarrassment to himself and the family when he becomes king. Worried about what is going to happen when David becomes king, King George V gives Albert some of his speeches to practice so that he can overcome his struggles with stuttering and help him for when he can become king. In January 1936, Albert's father, King George V, passes away, which leads to David becoming king and taking the throne as King Edward VIII. Albert then tells King Edward VIII that as the head of the Church of England, he is not allowed to marry a divorced woman. King Edward VIII then becomes frustrated with his brother and accuses him of wanting to steal his throne. Later on, King Edward VIII surrenders the throne to his brother Prince Albert so he can marry the divorced woman that he has been dating. Prince Albert now becomes King George VI. As King George is preparing for his coronation to become king, he learns that Logue is not a licensed speech therapist who had returned from World War I, and he decided that after helping out those soldiers, that he should help others with his life. George had Logue always by his side when delivering his speech, silently giving him instructions of what to do. The ending scene of the film involves King George VI having to deliver a speech to let the people of England know that war has been declared with Nazi Germany. He delivers the speech perfectly without any problems with his stutter, and he walks out on the balcony to thousands of people applauding him for overcoming his stuttering problems. As is the case most of the time, the historical accuracy, some had flaws with it. Kathy Schultz, a professor at the University of St. Francis in Illinois, noted there was something wrong with the film. Schultz had noticed that the filmmakers had changed when events had occurred. Schultz informed us that the Duke began working with Logue in 1926, 10 years before the abdication crisis. An English historian named Andrew Wagner had noticed that they had made the severity of King George VI's stuttering and that some of the characters were made worse as a person than they actually were. Roberts had also noticed that in the final scene that the scene was fairly absurd and that Winston Churchill and Neville Chamberlain were not present and that there were no cheering crowds at Buckingham Palace. Thanks for watching The Extra. I'm Nick Dorff.
It sounds like the big screen once again did a little elaboration on the truth.
That's show business for you. Sometimes the truth isn't interesting enough for people.
Yes, there have been many films that only have fragments of the truth to them. It appears British-inspired films are no different.
Let's take a commercial break and see what kind of English fact or fiction our next segments have to tell.
Sounds good. When we come back, we will hear about one bad film that I still remember in my nightmares. Stay tuned.
Welcome. You're watching Back to the Movies.
The next segment of our show features an English movie that I really don't want to talk about.
It wasn't that bad. However, watching it now, I can say I'm surprised that my parents let me see it as a kid.
No one should have had to suffer through that movie.
Derek, why don't you tell everyone what movie Steve is so scared of?
Hello and welcome to another installment of Bad Movies. I'm Derek Murawski. This week's theme is British movies, and what British movie could be more horrible than Mr. Bean? That's right, the Spice Girls movie, Spice World. This movie is legendary. Why? All 5 lead actresses won the Razzie for Worst Actress. And the film won a slew of other Razzies. Worst New Star, Worst Supporting Actor, Worst Screenplay, and Worst Original Song. Woo! That list was more exhausting than dating Judge Judy. My favorite critic, Roger Ebert, gave this film 0.5 stars out of 4. 0.5! This is something I've never seen, and I almost always agree with him. This is a new low. Not only that, but it's one of his most hated films of all time. When the most epic critic in the entire world hates your film and considers it one of the most hated ever when he's seen pretty much every film, you're screwed. This film... Oh, man. I don't know, man. Lord. I must confess, though, I have always loved this film. Probably because I was 6 years old when it came out. Who can blame a 6-year-old for liking 5 girls who dance and sing and smile? It's fun, right? But when I saw this movie when I was 17, I figured out that it's a terrible movie. And still, I liked it because it's so over-the-top horrible that it's fun. Kind of like a circus. But seriously, who do these Spice Girls think they are? Just because you sold millions of albums and had very successful tours does not mean that you are cinematic. The cinema is an art form that you, Spice Girls, are not allowed to enter. Britney Spears, on the other hand, she can have as many movies as she wants. I love her. David Beckham? How did he get my number? Hello?
I don't like my wife's movie.
Oh, you mean your wife's full screen movie, Spice World? Yeah, it's terrible.
Well, she's pretty talented. I mean, look at me. I was in Benedict Beckham once.
You had like a freaking cameo in that movie. And by the way, I heard last night on the internet that you gave your wife herpes. So, just shut up.
Well, I didn't give my wife herpes. I like my wife. I think she's pretty hot.
Wait, can you get herpes over the phone? Ew, talk to you later. Well, this has been Bad Movies for this week. I'll see you next week. Back to you in the studio.
Even hearing about that makes my head hurt. Who thought the Spice Girls deserved a movie?
I know I did when I was a kid, although now I wish they would have shown more of the concerts or shared their life stories like other artist-inspired films do.
The whole thing didn't even make sense. It was just a group run around in skimpy clothes randomly singing their songs.
Come on, Steve, you don't want to be my lover?
Great, now I'm gonna have that stupid "if you want to be my lover, you gotta be with my friend" song in my head. I'd blocked that out for years, you know. Stop!
Well, Steve tries to reblock the Spice Girls from his mind. Let's see this week's international film. Alan, what are you covering this week?
Hello everyone, welcome to International Film. I'm your host, Alan. As we all know, the power of Hollywood permeated into all over the world, especially English-speaking country. It is getting a little bit harder to find a pure, for example, like this week, British movie, because most of them are the product of the collaboration between the local filmmakers and Hollywood tycoons. But this doesn't mean Britain is no longer has their own excellent film anymore. Tonight, I got one for you, the 1996 film Trainspotting. It was ranked as the top 10 best British movie by British Film Institute, as well as was voted as the best Scottish movie of all time in a general public poll. It was directed by Daniel Boyle, best known as Academy Award-winning director of Slumdog Millionaire, as well as the director of opening ceremony of 2012 London Olympic Games. And also this ambition, charisma, and sheer blood, sweat, brio of this 1996 Ivan Welsh adaptation, which gave Ewan McGregor a role that, if we're being honest, he has never bettered. A group of disaffected Scottish youth turn into heroine to escape the banality of modern-day existence. Mark Renton, a young man with few prospects and fewer ambitions, lives in economically depressed Edinburgh. Like most of his friends, Renton is a heroin addict who loves the drug's blissful nothingness. Financing his habit also provides excitement and challenges that his life otherwise lacks. Renton's two best friends are also junkies. Sick Boy, a snappy dresser obsessed with James Bond, and Spewed, a guideless nerd who suggests Pee-wee Herman's debauched cousin. After one too many brushes with the law, Renton kicks heroin and moves to London, where he finds a job, a flat, and something close to peace of mind. However, his friends all arrive at his doorstep on the trail of a big score, leading Renton back into drugs and crime. In Britain, Trainspotting garnered almost universal praise from critics. Empire magazine described this movie, quote, "something Britain can be proud of and Hollywood must be afraid of." The greatness of this movie was not just the acting, the directing, or the industrial ways in which Daniel Boyd uses editing and camera movement to convey time, activity, violence, love, ecstasy, and pain, but the impact on popular culture, the vivid depiction and reflection of the economically depressed society and the struggles that younger generation at that time faced. Alright, so much for this movie, and now it's your turn to get on the internet or go to the store to check this movie out. Thanks for watching. I'm Alan. See you next time.
It seems like Trainspotting is a vicious circle for the characters.
It is sad how some characters clean up but then fall back into the cycle.
Let's continue our cycle and take our last break of the evening.
When we come back, we will check out this week's Parody of the Week.
We will be right back.
Welcome back to the last part of the show.
This week's Parody of the Week spoofs a movie that is a personal favorite of mine.
I know you're not planning to have me guess again. We'll probably be here all night.
That's exactly why you're not guessing. This week's parody features the movie Hot Fuzz. Nick, I hope you don't disappoint me.
You are doing very well here, and we would like to promote you.
Really? Where?
St. Cloud, Minnesota.
Where is it?
Dude, what are you doing?
This is a smoke-free campus.
This is a smoking area.
Right.
So, Hot Fuzz is like a bad cop movie?
It's kind of a parody on cop movies. Simon Pegg's character is like a super cop teamed up with a not-so-super partner, Danny.
Okay, so a good cop, bad cop routine, right?
I guess you could put it something like that.
Well, that's it for this week's episode.
Make sure to go check out the new James Bond film, Skyfall. I know I will. I hear it's going to be the best one yet.
Thanks for watching.
We will see you next week.